Here's the message you need to hear today. They can't push your button if you don't have one. Hey, my friends, I'm Tim Windsor. Welcome back to the UNCOMMODiFiED podcast. I just want to share a short little idea with you today. I want to rent some space in your head, get you thinking about something. They can't push your button if you don't have one. I was recently talking to somebody, and they were talking about an interaction that they had with somebody else. And they talked about how this person was pushing their button. And I remember thinking while I was talking about it, well, hold on a second. If you don't have a button, they can't push it. And even that statement puts all the blame on the button pusher, not the responsibility on the person with the button. And I know this might sound strange and it might sound simple, but it's powerful. And I know I have to remind myself of this idea. They can't push my button. You can't push my button if I don't have one. And I want you to think about a computer for a second. You look at your computer keyboard and you have a series of buttons on there, and you have macro buttons, you have function keys, depending on whether you have a Macintosh or you have a Windows computer. You have keys that when you press them in certain orders, they execute a pre-programmed, predetermined script that causes action. And we have those same things in our lives. We have buttons, and that when people push them, we have an immediate response, sometimes positive and most often negative. But if we're not careful, we're putting all the responsibility of the person with the finger, not the person with the button. And the person with the button is me. And I really have begun to realize that there's three things that I can do if I want to solve this problem in my life. And there's three things that you can do if you want to solve the problem in your life, if you want to solve it in yourself or someone else, or coach them and help them to do it. There are three things that we can do to change this dynamic. We can disconnect the power, we can remove the button, or we can rewrite the code. Those are the three options that we have. We can disconnect the power, we can remove the button, or we can rewrite the code. So we can de-energize our response by taking out the emotion that's connected to that button in our lives. We can disconnect its power to cause us to do things in a reactionary way. We have a choice about that. We can remove the button altogether. We can do some hard work to get rid of that thing that is sensitive to the touch of others. Or we can also rewrite the code in our responses. And all of this is done through thoughtful consideration of the emotional energy that's driving the response. Sometimes it's positive emotional energy that's driving the response, and most often it's most likely negative emotional energy. And that energy is being derived from somewhere else. That script that plays in my mind when you touch a certain part of my life by saying something to me, using a certain word, calling me something, it actually triggers a script that is often deeply rooted in my psyche from my past experiences. And so my strong counsel to you is to recognize that it is not just the person with the finger that is responsible for this experience, but it is your responsibility if you have a button that they can push. And sometimes what we have to recognize in all honesty, in all honest admission, is that it's our button. And we're responsible for it. Even if somebody else programmed it over the years in our life, even an authority figure, a parent, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, somebody programmed that button in our life, we ultimately become responsible for what happens when that thing gets touched and that key stroke happens in our life. And I think one of the ways that I've learned to rewrite that code that fires off when something happens in my life is actually through contemplation, through thoughtfulness, through careful consideration, through the hard work of therapy, going inside of that and figuring out what's happening, because in fact, it's a disruptive emotion that's taking control of my response right now. And so there's no simple answer to this question, this conundrum in our life. It's going to take some hard work and consideration. But the next time something happens in your life and you're finding yourself saying, they pushed my button, I'm going to ask you to reframe that and say, actually, I have a button that I let them push, and I have control of what I'm going to do about that. I can disconnect the power. I can remove the button totally, or I can reprogram the script that operates when that area gets touched in my life. And so whether you need to do some personal work, some journaling, some thought, maybe you need to seek some counsel, maybe you need to talk to your partner, maybe you need to go and talk to a professional and get some therapy. But can I suggest something? That it isn't just the people with the finger that are the cause of the problem. I'm the problem. I am the cause of my own problem because I have buttons that are connected to deep-rooted problems and challenges in my life. And sometimes I'm not acting as a 58-year-old man. I'm actually acting as a 6-year-old child. Not because I'm choosing to so much, but an automatic script is running and that I'm responsible for that. And that if I can break that power, I can respond more as a healthy, whole adult to the situations that are happening in my life, professionally and personally, for this benefit, the positive benefit of myself and others. And I can make sure that I am moving in a way that is absolutely positive for me and others by removing the power that is associated with events in our life that cause us to respond and react in inappropriate ways. There is no easy answer to this question. But remember, it's not just the person with the finger, it's the person with the button who also bears responsibility for the response in the moment. Please take this challenge seriously. Think about it, consider it, do the hard work that you need to disconnect or rewrite the code so that you can respond in a more effective way to the things that are happening in your life today. Have an excellent day. Go out and be different for the sake of others. Thanks very much for listening. Cheers.